My name is Arin Lindauer, and you're listening to A Life Without Struggle. I'm a wife, a mother of 2 wonderful children, a 2-time best-selling author, and a highly driven and successful entrepreneur. In my 17-plus year career as a mindset and health expert, I know what holds women back from a life you only dream about. Whether you're a CEO, a businesswoman, or executive, I started this podcast because I have been where you are, and I know you want and deserve more out of your life. I believe women are limitless. We just get lost along the way. The process to get you there is the topic and purpose of this podcast. When you understand what you want, you can truly step into a life without struggle. Welcome, and I'm so thankful you're here. Welcome back to another episode of Life Without Struggle. My name is Arin Lindauer, and today we're going to dig into a topic on, do you know what you want? This is a big question, and it's a question that I feel like most women never, ever even ask of themselves. We're always constantly asking, what do other people need? What do our kids need? What do our husbands, our partners need? Our family members, what do they need? And we're always giving, right? Like there's just this nurturing piece to women that we're always going above and beyond for our coworkers or our neighbors, or, like you could literally insert the dog, the cat, right? And we're always thinking about other people outside of ourselves. And so, the age-old concept, and you guys know where I'm going to go with this right now, but this whole concept of you've got to put your oxygen mask on first and then assist your child is a very interesting phenomenon with women. And I find it very fascinating with women and taking care of their health and taking care of who they want to be, how they want to show up in this world. And it's something that has been very, very interesting for me to just watch women and these cycles and the loops and the self-sabotage and the never actually getting where they want to go. So I have a few thoughts on this and a few things that I want to just talk through and bring to light to help you if you're struggling with this, because it's extremely common. It's extremely common for women to constantly say, oh, I'll take care of my health tomorrow. I'll get on the diet on Monday. I'll, start walking on Monday. And Monday comes around, maybe they do it a couple times, but then, shit hits the fan and life happens. And all of a sudden, everything that you were doing for yourself just completely goes by the wayside because of all these external factors. So I want to talk into this and understand, where are we coming from when this occurs? So first and foremost, this has been modeled. This has been something that has been modeled from a very, very, very eons ago. Okay, so it is a program. It is something that we feel selfish if we take care of ourselves before we do X, Y, or Z. If we were, heaven forbid, to go to the gym before taking care of our kid, or if we had to ask our husband, hey, I'm going to go to the gym Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 5:45 a.m. I'll be back at, 6:30, 7 a.m. And heaven forbid you had to ask him to start the morning routine with the kids. And what's funny about that particular time of the morning is most of the babes are still asleep. So even that is its own racket that we have in our head because we don't want to inconvenience someone else. Okay. So the only reason I can speak on this stuff, guys, as you know, always is because I have personally experienced this. And so I want to lean into, hey girl, you're not being selfish. You're not going to not get your things done just because you chose to take care of you. And here's the cool thing. And here's, a glimpse into this world when done correctly is you actually are way more focused. You're way more present. you're happier, you're more efficient at the work that maybe you're doing when you have your health, when you've taken care of yourself, when you chose to go to bed versus doing that next load of laundry, okay? Because here's the thing that I'm going to tell you is we will prioritize chores, laundry, dishes, cleaning up the kitchen over our own health. Okay, so you may be like, wait, what? Think about that. When I say these words, you prioritize your laundry, your dishes, your kitchen being clean or taken care of over your health. Like you'd be like, huh, well, that's weird. That I probably shouldn't do that. Okay, that's logical. I get that. Yet we do it day in and day out. We are constantly putting other things and other people as a priority versus taking care of our own health. Now, to anyone logically saying that, you would be like, oh shit, that's not a good thing. Like, I probably should do this a little bit differently. But this is the stuff that I see us rationalize in our own head. We, then turn this into, well, I'm so stressed. I have too much work to do. My husband doesn't do this. My kids are always doing that. And if I don't do it, nobody's going to do it. And so this is a culture shift that we have to have. And here's the cool thing is even an old dog can learn new tricks. I will never forget when I just had to have the honest conversation. You guys are going to laugh at this, but it was a sincere problem when, my husband will take the kids to school and I pick the kids up from school. It's just kind of how our routine is working this school year. And so I would get home and, get home in the afternoon, and reasonably speaking, there's still like a good 2-3 hours of a work day. And I want to get the kids settled, get them, the 50 snacks that they need. Just kidding. But like you want to reasonably get things in check and then, go down to my office once that I've got them settled. Well, I found that like all of a sudden it would be like 5 o'clock and I'm like, how the heck did 2 hours just like fly by? Well, it was because I was cleaning up from their lunches. I was putting the papers and the 50 art projects away. They're so cute. But, oh my God, so many. But and then cleaning up the dishes from breakfast and, potentially unloading the dishwasher because that's why the dishes were piled up in the first place. And then they've got their bags and their coats and everything was just all over the first floor. And I was just like, what is going on? And so I had to have a sincere conversation with my husband because I was like, man, the second I get home from school, it like takes me 2 hours to get everything settled. And he was like, well, what are you doing? And I just started like kind of listing out because we do like to keep our house reasonably put together. It may not be spick and span perfectly clean, but at least stuff is put away for the most part. Surfaces are wiped down good enough, right, for throughout the week. And so I was like, man, what would be really helpful? And I was like, this is not a slam. And so you have to choose words wisely. And this is something that my husband and I have become so in tune with words is like, I can't just say, dude, you leave the house a wreck. What the H? Like, I couldn't just go there. But I was able to say, hey, man, like, is there any way you can, put their pajamas back upstairs, their toothbrushes? Can you get the dishes reasonably in order, because then it's just less that I have to do. And it was wild because the second he was like, oh yeah, that's easy. I can do that, and here's the deal. Some mornings don't perfectly go. And you know what? I come home and it's like, crap, here we go. I got to get all this. But for the most part, because we were able to have that communication and that understanding, because at the end of the day, we both desire things to be in somewhat of an order. And I've kind of just dubbed our house. We have 3 different floors to this particular house. And I'm like, you know what? If the basement is a wreck, I can look the other way for a while. If the upstairs is out of order, which is all of our bedrooms and stuff, I'm like, we can shut doors. But the main floor has to be in place. And so it was kind of a conclusion that we came to, that it was like, hey, we feel better. When you wake up in the morning, you're just having a cup of coffee and you just want to read something, doing your morning routine, your meditations. I was like, it's not fun to have clutter and stuff. And he's like, no, I totally agree. And so it was one of those things where we could actively come together because we knew what we wanted. We knew what was creating more chaos. And so this is where I want to challenge women listening to this. If you feel like everything is falling on you, first off, a lot of times we do that to ourselves. And listen, I am guilty as charged. Like, I would rather take care of something than, teach the 5-year-old, here's what to do, because honestly, I could do it 10 times faster. It would be right. And it would be over with, right? But it doesn't help facilitate her. And so it's important. And it was so funny. Liv and I were having this conversation because I was like, hey, babe, can you please hang up your coat, your book bag? And now she has to walk it up to our front from our back door when she comes in from school. And in her head, this was great. She goes, well, Mommy, in the morning, Daddy always gets it and puts it on the bench anyways. So why don't we just leave it on the bench and then it will be ready in the morning? And I was like, oh my God, that logically makes sense, but I want it put away. And so I had to give her the benefit of the doubt, but I had to help her understand, hey, that totally makes sense. And I appreciate where you're coming from, but I really like it when things are in order. And that's where Daddy put the hooks. And it was just like, okay, in her head. But this is what's important. If you desire things to be kept in a certain way, you have to communicate with the people around you. You can't yell at them. You can't expect them to read your mind. And you can't constantly be saying, I'm so stressed. I've got too much to do. Therefore, I can't take care of myself. So you see where I'm going with this topic here today is, do you know what you want? Now, I just used, hopefully a funny story of like, okay, reasonably speaking, how to keep the house in somewhat of an order. Now, don't come into my house and like expect it to be perfect on a Wednesday night, but like, listen, it's good enough, right? But I want you to understand what is important to you so that you can do what you need to do to take care of yourself. So let's just say you had a weight loss goal and you knew that you were going to need to, have some assistance or help in order to spend the time that you needed, either away from kids, away from your husband, family members, like coworkers. Let's just say that you needed to inconvenience in your eyes someone. I want you to have full permission that it's okay to ask for what you want, but it's also okay to tell people what you want. And hey, what's a reasonable solution so that I can make sure? Because nothing is more annoying if your husband's like, hey, I'm going to go, fishing, or I'm going to go play golf, or I'm going to go hunt, or, I'm trying to think of like all the different things. Ooh, my favorite is, hey, I'm going to go work on this project. And I'm always like, oh my gosh, here he goes for 4 hours, right? I mean, anybody. And so think about it. Guys in our life, they will go and take whatever time it needs to get whatever it is that they desired to do. And they don't think twice about it. And so this is where I want to come from for women and be the voice that, hey, what do you want? Okay. And what do you need to do in order to be able to get the time, the space, the resources, whatever it is, to get what you personally want? So the rhetorical conversation that we have to have is, do you know what you want? Okay, because all day long, women can tell me what they don't want. They don't want the belly fat. They don't want the fat on their thighs. They don't want to weigh this number on the scale. They hate how they look in the mirror. They, hate how their clothes fit. They hate how they get winded walking up the stairs. Like all day long, I have women tell me how much they don't want this or don't want that. But very rarely does a woman get on the phone with me and she's like, man, I just want, to feel this energy. I want to, I want my body to look a certain way. I want this clothing to feel really good. Very rarely, and I have to constantly flip her. So I want you to take notice of how many times you focus on what you don't want to have happen. The more we focus on what we don't want, that's actually what's going to happen. And I know that sounds goofy, but I have countless experiences in focusing on what I didn't want to have happen, and then bam, it happened. But think about it from a subconscious level, that's what you believed to be true. So be very, very careful with your thoughts, and especially those thoughts that keep popping up, keep popping up, keep popping up. Sometimes we have to rewrite those thoughts. And so it's not the most intuitive process for us because we are hardwired to focus on what we don't want. Witnessed this for generations. Maybe we've experienced it in a past life. Who knows, right? Like, who knows what all is actually building us to who we are here today. But what I know and what I've witnessed is the women who get really clear on what it is they desire. This could be with a career goal. This could be with, an income goal, and certainly with a weight loss goal. But the clearer and more concise that she is on, this is what I want, come hell or high water, then what happens is the execution of it, okay? If I desire a clean house, guess what? Every single day, I'm getting it back to square one, okay? I'm taking those 10 to 20 minutes to get things in order. Also, I've enlisted the help of others in the household to make sure that this happens as well, and that it's important. One thing that we've spoke to our kids very extensively about is taking care of their environment. I do remember being told as a young child that you always need to leave your environment better than when you came there. So like, for example, a hotel room. And this was very interesting because I will always either strip the sheets down or bundle up all the sheets and the towels, and I'll put them in the tub so that it's easy for the cleaning service to come in and turn over that room, and put the trash in the trash cans. And it's just, it's something that I remember my parents, and this was also from us having a rental property for just a very short time. We used to rent out our lake house, and my dad and I would turn it over week after week. And we always gave people a better rate that we knew cleaned up. The people who left the place a wreck, those are the people we actually charged more. It was, because it took us more time to turn it over, and it was just a lot more work. And I just remember that as a very young kid, to always leave my environment better than it was when I came there. And that's really stuck with me. It's something that I really, really appreciate, but it's something that I want to instill in our kids. And when you think about kids, especially when they're younger, they don't have enough life experiences to understand that you can't just replace everything, right? Like, you can't just replace the coffee table when they decided it was the latest, greatest dancing pad, right? I'm just literally staring at the end table that they broke. And so it's hard. They're hard lessons for them to understand, because it's like they think everything is replaceable. They see mommy and daddy, buy things and do things. And so it's a very interesting lesson for them to learn very, very young that, you don't just go out and replace that. Like, this is of value. It's something we saved money for, and you freaking broke it, and I'm not happy. But it's important to understand that this is our environment, and this is the way we treat it. And so it's been very good too, because I can parallel it lots of times to, well, you don't do this at school, do you? No. Okay, cool. Well, why would we do it at home? And so you have to find those common grounds to help, especially younger kiddos, understand it. But it's something to make sure that and I think our environment matters so much. So our environment really dictates how we feel on a daily basis. And I think about our personal homes. That's your safe haven. That's where you can let your hair down. This is where you get inspired, you create. And so you want to make sure, think about this. How many people are excited for prepping food when you've got a sink full of dirty dishes, the dishwasher hasn't been run, and you need to make a bunch of food. Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. But when you have a clean slate and you can just simply go to the grocery store, and then it's just a matter of like putting it together, or this is the worst. Have you ever made a bunch of meal prep and you didn't have all your containers washed and ready to go? Ooh, man, that fires me up. So that doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. So I speak into this very heavily because I want you to consider, do you know what you want in life? Do you know what you want when it comes to your relationships? Do you know what you want when it comes to your career? Do you know what you want when it comes to your finances? And definitely, do you know what you want when it comes to your health? So when you know what you want when it comes to your health, then what we do is we reverse engineer. Here are the action steps that we need to take. What does our step need to look like? How much do we need to move our body? What does our resistance training need to look like? What kind of fuel do we need for our body? Okay. And then we can reasonably speaking figure out, okay, how is this all going to work? Because we all have stuff going on. Everyone is busy. Everyone's busy is a little bit different, but here's the thing. I'm trying to think how to say this nicely, but we design our own life, whether we realize it or not. So if you feel like your life is constantly in chaos, guess what? That's yours. So you can change it. The problem is you're so used to chaos that that's all you tend to know. So that's what you gravitate towards. If all you knew was eating junk food, TV dinners, box dinners, if that's all you knew, that's all you know. So when it comes to making change, this is where you find yourself running up against a lot of resistance and a lot of frustration. But this is where, again, you stay so focused on what you want, and it makes it a lot easier to then execute, especially when it's kind of rubbing against a value system, because your values are changing. What's important to you is changing. Your belief system is changing, and it's good. You want this. So I want to challenge you to look at all areas of your life and decide, do I really know what I want, or has it even evolved? That's always an interesting space for me when I've coached a client for a year plus. Things change. They've hit cool goals. And what was important to them day one is definitely not important to them on day 365, 366 plus. And that's a good thing because you've evolved. But then it takes a whole nother level of, okay, again, what do I want now? And it's not that we've always got to be like going to the next 9 or whatever, but I kind of sit here and say, why not? What else have you not considered, when it comes to these goals? So I want you to think about, do I know first and foremost what I want? Because if you don't know what you want and you're constantly stressed, frustrated, everything's chaos, you're just letting life happen, guys. And when you let life happen, it doesn't feel good to anyone, right? And so we have to really look at, okay, if I'm constantly stressed because I have to take kids to 50 different things, just remember you're the one that actively put them in those things. And it's a good thing. They're flourishing. It's excitement. So instead of being so stressed, so busy, so chaotic, remember, this is what we wanted. So it's like, yeah, I got to take them here, here, and here. And I'm going to do it with a happy heart. Easier said than done. But that's where you can take back that control of like, you know what? It's a little nutty sometimes, but here we go. And all that is shifting the subconscious mind that always decided that this was stressful versus this is what we want. We wanted to put them in these things and we're going to run them around, and it gets a little nutty sometimes, but you know what? Everybody's happy, everybody's healthy, everybody's thriving, and it's all good. So really dig into this. This is a very, very deep topic. It's something too that I coach very, very deeply with women on. So if this has piqued your interest, which I'm sure it has, let's have further conversation about this. If you've considered having a coach, this is what I do. Yes, we're going to talk about weight loss. Yes, we're going to talk about food and exercise and all the things that go into actually seeing results. But there's a lot more to it. It's not just eating your macros, moving your body, lifting some weights. It's really about these shifts in our mentality and understanding, what do I want? Because for most women, when I say that, holy moly, cue the waterworks, right? And I remember even myself, like, holy crap, I've never considered what I wanted. I did what I thought I was supposed to do, and why am I not happy? So the reason I bring this topic and why this topic is so important for me to get out to other women is because I found myself in a space where I was like, damn it, I went to school, I met the guy, I got married, I had 2 kids, and I have the business, I have the house. Like, why am I not happy? And it's because I never actually asked myself, what do you want, right? And so it's been a very eye-opening experience for myself to really lean into and understand, okay, girl, this is what you actually desire. And then it's another thing too, to be willing to do the things that it's going to take to get you where you want to go. So that's probably a part 2 to this. But anyways, hopefully this has been helpful. And as always, reach out to me. Consider sending me a DM on any socials. And if you've been listening to this and you're curious about coaching, just reach out. I have a really awesome coaching program where I truly change women's lives. It's a very transformative process. It's not just eating well and exercising. There's so much more that goes into this, and truly becoming the woman that you are. You are infinite. You can do anything you desire. We're just taught a lot of limitations. All right, ladies, go get them.